Hello Internet, my name is Ryan Ingram, and today we're going to talk about exactly how to pick a good area to invest in. Now, this is a question that I get a lot, and it's very nuanced, and depending on what kind of mood I'm in whenever I get this question, I could get pretty angry about it. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about all of the things that go into determining this and the variables that you can control and the ones that you cannot. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly where I stand. So take a moment, hit the subscribe button, and enjoy this brutally honest video. Don't ask what an area can do for you, but ask what you can do for that area. And I understand why I get asked this question so often. It's because I invest in properties at a price point that's largely unattainable to the majority of the nation. So it's not common that you're able to buy a really awesome property for less than $50,000. And there's this like hidden kind of underlying association between cheap homes and crime-ridden areas. And I think that is worthwhile, especially for your overall net worth, if we debunk that. So let's start by going over just the objective things that are inarguable, just data points that are collected by a lot of people, and let's discuss those first. Now, probably the first and most obvious objective measure is the crime rate, and Trulia actually has a phenomenal app that you should download, and whenever you're interested in a property, all you have to do is swipe over to the crime feature and look at it. A light blue means that there's hardly any crime, and a very dark blue means that it's very dense with crimes. Now, in the middle territories, when it's just kind of a middle blue, what I think is worthwhile, and just from my law enforcement background, is I want to dig a little bit deeper. And in Trulia, you can do that. You can see whether it was violent crimes, aggravated crimes like robbery or aggravated assaults, things like that, or are they property crimes? Is it vehicle theft, breaking and entering, trespassing? Some of these locations that are right in the middle, it's just worthwhile knowing overall, just generally what kind of crimes are committed there. And that does go into consideration if there's a property that I'm interested in that falls in one of those middle ground properties. Now, the second objective measure that we can look at are school districts. Now, this is my personal bias, but at the same time, I think we should all agree that all public school systems suck, right? So for me personally, this plays a very little role in determining whether or not I purchase a property. I know some investors that do flips, and that is one of their reasons that they enjoy properties, is because you can generally get a little bit of a premium for properties that are in good school districts. But as far as buy and hold investing goes, I am not interested in paying a premium for being in a good school district, so I generally stay away from those areas. Now, for my rental property portfolio, they're all inside the city of Dayton, so Dayton does not have a good school district, so I get on Zillow between like 0s and 4s on all the properties that I own. This is not something that I truly put much weight in when I'm considering an area, because chances are, if it's inside the area that I invest in, it's not a good school district. The third objective measure that you can look at is on Google Maps, and you can just see an area's proximity to amenities. So how far is it from a grocery store? How far is it from places to shop? How far is it from anything other than like a Dollar General and one of these bodega style corner stores? How far is it from entertainment like movie theaters or bowling alleys or anything fun for a family to go out and do in a very wholesome Friday night manner? If you're not looking to appeal to families, if you're looking to appeal to the younger people, then how far is it from bars or the real poppin' nightlife? The fourth objective measure that you can look at is its proximity to jobs. How far is it from larger places to work? So here in Dayton, the largest employers that we have are obviously Wright Pat Air Force Base, Premier Health, CareSource. So how far away are the properties from that location? Now, in this, you can also include its proximity to a bus line. So if it is further away from those jobs, then does this property, is it within walking distance from a bus stop? If so, then you might not have an issue, even though it is far away from some jobs. But again, these are just things that you can look at. So that's pretty much it for as far as like the measurable data points that you can point to and analyze. And I hope that some of you out there cringed, because honestly, this goes hand in hand with a lot of the systemic issues that mainstream media has been obsessed with lately. So the proximity to amenities, the school districts, all of these are issues, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really make a difference, in my opinion, on your real estate investing decisions or whether or not you should actually look at an area. Now, in addition to those just measurable data points that we just discussed, I also like to make observations about areas that more so drive my decisions. I like to actually drive through areas and observe the following. One of the first things I like to do is just look at how much deferred maintenance is present in an area, and more particular, the actual street that I am interested in investing on, because a lot of these properties that are in this price point are truly on a street by street basis. So if the municipality, if that city, town, or township, whatever it is, isn't necessarily known for its school systems or whatever other measures we just threw out there or that I don't care about, these things are truly neighborhood by neighborhood, especially in the market that I'm in. So I like to first hone in on the specific street that I am interested in investing on, and then I look at how much deferred maintenance is present. So are there gutters hanging off? Are there yards that are completely overgrown? Is there peeling paint on the properties? Are garage doors broken? Are windows busted out? Is there crumbling concrete on steps or on the foundation of properties? Are there really old roofs? Are there roofs that have holes? These things are really important for me when I look at properties, because I want to know, just as a community, how do people view these things? Is this reasonable to not put money into your home? The second thing I like to look at is I just like to do a quick scan up and down the street and figure out what's the average quality of cars. Are there cars that are broken down and kind of abandoned on the street? Are they mainly just older, outdated cars from like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s? Or are they primarily new cars? These are things that, again, are just observations, things that I like to look at and just make a mental note of. Now, the third thing that I just like to make a general observation of is the landscape. How are these properties manicured? Do they have flower beds with new mulch? Are there trees planted? Or is it just like grown up weeds? Are there trees coming out of the foundation? Just a general consensus. And how does the lawn look? Has the community just collectively decided that they all use weed treating services like True Green or whatnot? Or are there a bunch of weeds throughout the yards? Are some yards long, some yards short? Are there, dirt spots in the yards? Just, again, things that really don't matter, but kind of give you a little bit of insight on just collectively how does that community expect their neighbors to treat their yards. And on that same token is litter. Is there trash just strewn about the street and the sidewalk? Is there trash accumulating like near the storm drains where it drains down into the sewer? Now, these things are no one person's responsibility. It's just collectively as a community. Do they pick up trash when they see it, or do they add to the trash pile? Now, this last thing, if I ever see it, count me out. My law enforcement background just prevents me from ever investing in an area where I see a grown man riding a children's bike. So if I'm riding through trying to make a determination on whether I will or will not buy a rental property in this area, well, guess what? One grown man on a children's bike is all it takes for me to push the eject button, to never think about investing in that area again. I've never seen anything good come from that. Guaranteed sign that people are up to no good. Now, all of those things that I just discussed, they're just data points. They don't have any feelings. They're not even facts, really. A lot of those things are just opinions that people have somehow figured out how to put on a spreadsheet and judge an area on. So all of these things don't have any bearing on the type of individual that would be willing to live there, or what the caliber of person is that does live in that community. So that really comes down to your screening process. Now, people have a lot of latitude and a lot of freedom in how they screen tenants. tenants and what type of criteria that they present. Some of the common things on income, you can require that a potential resident or an applicant makes 3 to 4 times the actual monthly rent rate in income. So if it is if the rent is $1,000 per month, then you can require that the tenant make $3,000 to $4,000 a month in order to be eligible to rent your property. You have the ability to look at people's credit reports. You have the ability to, as part of the application process, look at all of the past debts, look at any collections amounts that they might have. You have the ability to do a background check to figure out, have they ever been convicted of a felony? Have they ever been convicted of any misdemeanors? You could throw out a blanket policy that in order to rent your property that you purchase, you have to make, 3 to 4 times the income. You can't have any misdemeanors or felonies on your record, and you have to have a 600 or higher credit score. I mean, all of these things are inside of your control, and you have the ability to either accept an applicant or deny an applicant based on your standard set of criteria. Now, obviously, under like the equal housing stuff, you can't use age, race, or any of that to discriminate against an applicant, but you can use the data that is required of all applicants to make your decision. So I've had a lot of people approach me and tell me that they are not interested in investing in these lower property value areas because they know that tenants disrespect properties and will trash their property, and they don't want their property to be trashed. So 2 things on that. The first is that you're the one that screened them and you're the one that allowed them to live there. So if that happens to you once, then hey, it happens. That's part of this game. And if you can't afford one tenant just absolutely trashing your property, then you probably shouldn't be investing in real estate, because real estate is a very, very capital intensive industry. It requires that you have a lot of cash sitting on the sidelines ready to go and be deployed for these types of things. Now, this is something that happens inside of the real estate industry, but this is not something that regularly happens to one person over and over and over again without their own issue inside of their screening process. So at this point, it's going to fall back on the owner of the property, not the actual tenants who keep regularly destroying your property, because you're the one that keeps letting them live there. And on that same note, I would like to just point out the fact that all of these are just data points. This has no bearing on the actual caliber of people that live there. And I honestly think that real estate is one of these areas where you have to look deep inside of yourself and figure out what type of biases, what type of prejudices are you holding on to in order to kind of demean or think lesser of the people that you think will be living inside of these properties. Because the fact of the matter is, people have made a fortune in Class A residential properties, and people have made a fortune in Class D and Class F rental properties. It is not a reflection on how much opportunity is available. It is a reflection on your personal comfort level. If you're uncomfortable with Class D, Class E, Class F, whatever properties, then don't invest there. If you want to stay in the BC areas, then do exactly that. All of this to say, here's my challenge to you. Instead of trying to figure out, is this a good property to invest in based on some arbitrary data points, I would challenge you not to look and try to find a good area to buy just 1 or 2 properties in, but I would urge you to look at locations and say, how can I play an active part in building this community up? So as far as the data points that we just discussed, if the proximity to amenities is bad, then how can you improve it? Is there no grocery store in the area? What can you do, not only to buy 1 or 2 rentals, but how can you actively play a part in getting a grocery store to that area? Now, is this big picture stuff? Is this more things than you anticipated doing when you were just buying 1 or 2 single family homes? Sure. But That's the price of making a community better. And if you can successfully pull it off, then your property values on the 1 to 2 properties that you just purchased are going to go through the roof, because the closer and the better the proximity to amenities are, the better the area is going to be viewed and the more appreciation is going to occur. Do you want to have a net positive on that community, or are you just looking to make some passive income off the community? So in all of these videos that I've done about rental properties and the cash flow from those, I mean, don't get confused. The cash flow is nice, but it all plays a bigger part in having a positive impact on the community and building up this place. We take absolutely derelict, distressed, forgotten about properties and make them functioning units of this community again. So we're looking to have an overall net positive impact on the community. And that is what this is about. Not about making a quick buck, not about making a few $100 extra on a location. So that's a very roundabout, long-winded way to answer that question of, what type of area should I invest in? If you're in it for you, then screw you. If you're in it for the community, then start figuring out how to improve your community. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please comment below. Happy to hear your thoughts and happy to help.